When I was little, I found my mom's credit card, and being a 6-year-old, I saw my mom putting the credit card on her phone, and I knew how she did it. So, I decided that I was going to put it on my phone. So, I put it on my phone, and I was downloading Roblox, because I thought, hey, I can play with my friends here. That day, I spent $2,000 worth of freaking money on Robux. Let's just say a lot of my friends thought I was really cool and rich. When my mom found out, I hid from her for seriously like a day. And then once I got in there, she wasn't mad. She just said I was Captain Robux.
When I was younger, I was in Walmart and I was eating a tube of Pringles and I ate them while my mom paid, but I forgot to let the guy scan them, so I walked out the Walmart and the alarm went off and I just started running because I got scared and my mom couldn't find me because I was hiding behind the newspaper things, and the Walmart people called the police because I was missing, and when I hear them show up I thought I was a criminal, so I left my mom a note on the newspaper that said I went to Mexico to start a new life and not come looking for me, and then I took off running with my Pringles and ran for like an hour, and then the cops saw me walking down the road, so they pulled over, so I started running again, and then they were using the car intercom thing and they told me to stop running. So when I did, I thought they were gonna put me in handcuffs and take me to jail, so I was crying and I slapped the officer in the stomach and tried to run again, but he just held me back, and when he asked me what happened to me and I told him, he started crying because he was laughing so hard. And he just gave my mom $2 for the Pringles and he was still laughing when he left. And that's the time I was a wanted criminal.
This is why you never get out of your car for a stranger. Back in the 80s, there was this teenager who was speeding home because he didn't want to get yelled at for missing curfew. And the only way to get home was to take this back road that was completely made of dirt. It was in the country. It had no lighting other than his crappy dim headlights. So he's hauling ass down this dirt road and suddenly he sees this man standing in the middle of the dirt road. So he slams on his brakes, starts sliding on the dirt, and it ends up hitting this guy. So the teenager gets out of the car, he checks the guy, he has a pulse, but he's unconscious. So he picks him up and puts him in his back seat. So he drives 35 minutes to the nearest hospital, and this was before cell phones, so he calls his parents once he gets to the hospital and says what happened, and the parents come and sit and wait with him to find out if he killed the guy or not. So the doctor comes out and says to the teenager, he's okay, but we're actually kind of glad that you hit him. He's so confused and he asks why. It turns out a lot of people had been going to the hospital because this man would stand in the middle of dirt roads, wait for them to stop, beat them up, rob them, and run away. He even killed somebody and just left them there for somebody else to pick up and take to the hospital. The police were looking for this man for days, and this teenager just had him in his back seat.
Story time on the fake friend gets karma. So I've been friends with this girl since I have downloaded Roblox, and we're like the closest friends. So we try to straight at each other, and like we're just really close. Until this one time when she downloaded TikTok and she made new friends, and I wasn't mad about it because, you know, I have other friends than her, and you know, she was totally fine with it, so I was totally fine with it. Until she blocked me on every social media. Which is really weird because we've been friends since, and I don't know why she did it. Until one time she unblocked me on Roblox, and I finally texted her and asked her, why would you block me? And she even sent me death threats to make me stop texting her, which I did.
I am going to be telling you a scary childhood story. When I was 2 years old, my mom passed away. My dad wasn't in the picture, so I went to go live with my grandparents. My grandparents lived in a super old home that was built in the 1800s. I was a very imaginative child. So when I told my grandparents that I used to see people in the house, they just didn't believe me. There was one lady in particular that I would always see. She would sit at the end of my bed and watch me fall asleep. I wasn't scared of her because I thought she was an actual person. Plus, I was super little, so nothing even crossed my mind. At this point, I was like 4 or 5 years old. I remember her talking to me constantly. She even sang me the song Rockabye Baby to get me to go to bed one night. Every single day when I would get home, I could see her in my window. At that point, I thought she was just waiting for me. She just wanted to be my friend, right? But as I got older, things started to get really weird between me and her. She wasn't this nice lady anymore.
My friend's mom tried to stab me and my sister. Story time. Yes, honey, you heard that right. She tried to stab us with a knife. So at the time, me and my sister were 8 and 9 years old. And we went to the pool every single day. And we eventually made friends with this boy. We're gonna call him Tomato. Then our parents ended up making friends with Tomato's mom. Like, they ended up becoming really good friends. And after a couple months, Tomato eventually asked me and my sister to spend the night. Well, our parents surprisingly said yes. This is the one time, and the one time only, I wish my parents would have said no. Well, anyways, we went to the sleepover. By the way, it was our first sleepover we've ever been to. So we get there around 5 and we're having a blast. We made forts, we watched DT, we ate popcorn. For our first sleepover, it was going wonderful. However, the whole time we were at this sleepover, his mom was in her room. 11 p.m. comes around and the mom comes out of her room, smelling like alcohol. She was drunk. And she comes out and she starts screaming at us. She thought we were home invaders. Then she goes in the kitchen and grabs a knife.
And coming for us. And I was like, oh, hell no. So I told my sister, I was like, Katie, leave. Katie was the closest to the front door. And because of that, I was like, Katie, leave. Like, don't worry about me. Just run out the door. And she runs out the door. Luckily, our bags were still packed. So I grabbed our backpacks or whatever because I was going to use it as a shield because she was running for me. My sister wasn't in her vision. Like, I was like, she was staring right at me, like right dead into my soul, charging at me with a freaking knife. I grab our stuff and I'm just like running towards the front door. She literally like almost slices me and I'm just like, ooh. Ooh, I never ran so fast in my life. I booked it out of her house. Her son, Tomato, he was yelling at his mom and he's like, what are you doing? They're my friends. We invited them over. You don't remember? I felt so bad. He was like 7 at the time. I literally felt so bad for Tomato. I'm just like, damn. I turned around when Tomato started yelling at his mom. Like, I was already out of the house and I turned around because I heard Tomato yelling. His mom is like holding Tomato while he's yelling at her and she's just like holding her knife and she's like, what? Like, lady, you're crazy. You're literally insane, but whatever.
Story time about how my boyfriend's best friend tried to ruin our relationship. So a little background information. My boyfriend used to be best friends with this one girl. We're gonna call her Jamie. Well, Jamie and my boyfriend were best friends for years. And their friendship was more flirty than anything. Well, him and I got to know each other during track season. So we were always hanging out after school. And sometimes Jamie would be there too. Well, the one night him and I were on FaceTime and we were talking about how we really liked each other. So the next day we started dating. And I was good friends with Jamie too. But then after we started dating, she started acting really weird towards me. Like, I would try to say hi whenever I saw her in the hallways, and she would just give me a dirty ass look. So then I told my boyfriend how I thought that she was really mad at me. And he said that he would talk to her. Well, a week before him and I started dating, she told us that there was this guy that she really wanted to ask to prom. And she said that she liked him for a while. Well, then my boyfriend said, apparently a few days ago you were hitting on the boy that she was going to ask to prom. So then I started to connect the dots and I was like, oh Part 2 about how my boyfriend's best friend tried to ruin our relationship. So like I said, I started to connect the dots after that. And then I realized that she was talking about my boyfriend. We're just going to call him Josh. So as he's telling me this, I immediately get a FaceTime call from her. So I answer the phone, and she says, well, I think I should just confront the situation now. So the first thing that she says is, you knew I liked Josh. Like, how could you do this to me? I had a poster board and everything. So I'm just like, well, why didn't you tell me that you liked him? And she goes, like, you knew. But I was sitting there thinking about the fact that they were best friends for 5 years and nothing ever happened, so it's really not my fault. And then this girl has the nerve to say, I'm pretty sure if you just break up with him now, me and you can get past this and still be friends. So I said no. So then I called my boyfriend, told him that we talked it out, and I didn't even tell him about what she said or anything like that, because I just wanted the situation to be over and done with. So a few weeks after that, she decided to get her brother involved. Her brother and Josh were best friends, by the way. Well, then her brother told Josh that him and I had been hooking up too about my boyfriend's best friend trying to ruin our relationship. So like I said, then she got her brother involved. And her brother and Josh were best friends. A little background information here. Josh had stopped talking to Jamie for those few weeks after she called me that night because she was making things really awkward in our relationship and just giving us a lot of problems. So the one night, Jamie's brother texts Josh and he's like, bro, I think it's mad sus how you cut her off when your girlfriend's the problem. So obviously Josh texted him and said, what do you mean? And her brother was like, she hits me up all the time to hang out. We've been hooking up. I can even send. And before I started dating Josh, there was this boy that I was talking to for like 6 months and I ended up sending him. And yes, they got around the school. But surprisingly, Josh had no idea about them. So her brother sent Josh the and said, bro, here, like, see her face is in it and everything. Lesson learned, don't put your face. So then me and 3 other people explained to my boyfriend that those were from a while ago. And after that, he just blocked both of them and we're still together.
Story time of how my entire virtual online class found out that I was pregnant and one of them ended up telling my mom. So due to COVID where I live, there is no in-person school, so everybody is virtual. So I was in my first block, and you only have to turn on your cameras for when she does attendance and then when you're talking. So I was called on and I had to answer a question, so I unmuted myself and I turned on my camera. And then when I was done, I turned off my camera and I think I forgot to mute myself back. After that, during that week, I was already having a pregnancy scare, so I FaceTimed my boyfriend and I went to go take a pregnancy test. Mind you, I don't really listen in class to begin with, so I turned the volume all the way back down because when the teacher calls on you once, she doesn't call on you again. So again, I couldn't hear anything happening in the classroom. So while I was on the phone with my boyfriend, I was freaking out while I was taking a pregnancy test, and it ended up coming back positive. So I started freaking out and I started bawling my eyes out, and in my room, I was screaming, I'm pregnant, what am I gonna do? I look back over and the session had ended, and everyone in that class is texting me like, oh my god, are you okay? I'm here for you, blah, 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 blah. So of course I start to freak out. Part 2 of how my whole entire online class found out that I was pregnant and one of them told my mom. So continuing with the story, I texted a couple of them back and I was like, how did you know? And they were like, we heard you sobbing in the background screaming, I'm pregnant. Then one of them goes, we heard some guy in the background screaming, just get a hanger, and you were screaming, no! Then one of them comes to tell me that the teacher had to start a brand new class because I wouldn't mute myself. So then I emailed my teacher and I told her that I was going through a really hard time and I really do apologize. And then she explained to me that everything was fine, like she understands things happen. So we were all good until like 3 days later. And my mom calls me telling me that somebody in my class had told her that I am pregnant. And I tried telling her like, no, like that is not true whatsoever. And then she sends me a recording that somebody else sent her of me in my room bawling my eyes out screaming, I'm pregnant, I don't know what to do. So somebody in my class was a big old snitch and sent a recording of me screaming I'm pregnant to my mom. And my mom is trying to force me to get an abortion, but I don't want to. To sum it up, I'm moving in with my grandma because she's super supportive. And in 3 months, I'll be having a baby boy.
Story time about my boyfriend's crazy ex-girlfriend and how she tried to kill me. So I've had problems with my boyfriend's ex-girlfriend multiple times before. First met her when she DM'd me going off on me because I was dating her ex. Well, she apologized and we became really good friends. We actually got really close. We got so close to the point where she actually moved in with me. I even introduced her to my other friends and we all became really close. One day my dad comes over to my apartment and after he left, she was being really weird. She wouldn't talk to me, she was ignoring me, she was being really short with me. Over the next week or so, I noticed my other friends becoming really distant. Well, one of my friends decided to finally talk to me. She told me that my boyfriend's ex-girlfriend told all of them that when my dad came over, he had grabbed her butt and she told me about it. I didn't do anything, which was a fat lie. That's not even the half of it. She lied to everyone about having cancer so she could get money. She tried to start a fight with me because she claimed I stole her stuff. She blocked me after that. Well, one day one of my really close friends that she was also friends with sent me a post she made on her Instagram. She posted a dead dog and captioned it, my heart is torn, I accidentally ran over my dog. It was my dog. Part 2 about my boyfriend's crazy ex-girlfriend and how she tried to kill me. So like I said, my boyfriend's crazy ex-girlfriend posted a dead dog on her Instagram, captioned it saying she was so sad she accidentally ran over her dog. Well, it was my dog. At this time, I'm not home, so I immediately go home. Like I said, she lived with me and I could tell that that picture was taken in the front of my apartment. But when I pull up, I see her looking out our window. When she sees me, she runs away from the window. I'm livid at this point. This my dog. So I run to get into my apartment and she meets me at the door. She tells me that there's a fire in our apartment to leave all my belongings outside. So I drop my phone, purse, keys, and we run up to the apartment. She shows me the fire, says she's gonna go get help, and runs out of the apartment and closes the door behind her. Get a bucket and fill it up with water and put some of the fire out. While I think my boyfriend's ex is going to go get help. Well, the fire started growing faster and I needed to ditch and get out of the apartment. When I tried to get out, I noticed that the lock on the door was changed. The part where you put in your key to get into your apartment was on the inside facing me. I didn't have my keys because she told me to leave them outside. Part 3 of my boyfriend's crazy ex-girlfriend and how she tried to kill me. My boyfriend's crazy ex-girlfriend locks me inside my apartment while there's a fire and I couldn't get out because she changed the lock on the door. So I knew my only choice was to put out the fire unless I wanted to jump out the window. Well, the smoke is getting really thick at this point. The fire had not gotten out of hand yet, so there was still a chance that I could put it out and save my stuff and my life. I know I should have jumped out the window, but I wanted to save my stuff too. So I open up my window and start filling up that same bucket of water over and over again. And I keep pouring it on the fire, damn near about to pass out because of the smoke. The fire eventually does go out. And then I jump out the window because that's the only way for me to get out. But as I'm walking away from the apartment, my boyfriend's ex is standing there and she gives me this look. She was annoyed that I was alive. When the firefighters and the police arrive, the police start questioning everyone, and when they question me, I tell them that she tried to kill me and also put everybody else in the apartment's life in danger too. But after they took her down to the station to question her, she confessed to everything, including killing my dog. Now she's serving time in jail for attempted murder of me and my neighbors.
One day, my cousin made a Tinder, and we were having a family barbecue, so he came over. He was like, oh my god, Sam, like this really hot girl just like matched with me. And then he shows me. And then I see the profile and it's literally pictures of Madison Beer. But the name on the profile was like Kalani. I was like, bro, I don't know who you're texting, but it's not Madison Beer. You're texting someone auntie right now. Whole ass auntie. He's like, guess we're about to find out. I was like, no, what the no? He's like, yeah, I just gave her the Addy. She's about to pull up. Like, we're gonna meet. Like, it's all cool, Sam. Like, trust me. Trust me. Trust me, he said. I trusted him. So I see a car pull up, and he's like, oh my god, I think it's her. I was like, oh shit, what if I do meet Madison Beer? The door freaking opens, and this old lady pops up. I look at my cousin, and I'm like, go hug her. Go. You were so excited. It's Kalani, the one and only. Come on.
There's a story time that happened in 2nd grade. So my teacher never allowed fidget spinners, and my friend always brought one to school because that was the only thing that helped us focus. But every time she saw it, she would take it, and she would never return it even though she said she was. So me and my friend, I'm gonna call her Jalen, and my other friend, I'm gonna name her Caitlin. So me, Jalen, and Caitlin all had this plan to sneak into school and take our fidget spinners. So at recess, we had this plan spot behind the tree, and we would all talk about it. This girl even didn't eat her lunch because her teacher took away her fidget spinner. Anyway, we all had this plan to sneak in school and break the windows, go in class and steal all our fidget spinners and give them back to the owners. But every time we talk about it, we'd get caught by this one kid named Nathan, and he would all go tell the teacher. But the teacher didn't care, obviously, because she knew we weren't going to do it.
So today in English class, our English teacher was going through the rules again, just because I guess like some people were forgetting them or like breaking the rules. So anyway, she was like, just to remind you guys, there's no food in class, no talking to your neighbor without permission. And if I catch you with your phones, then you're gonna have to have it taken away and your parents are gonna have to come get it. And when she said that part about the phones, this kid raised his hand, and he's like a really creepy kid. And he was like, well, what if I shoot you? Like, hold up. What? You just threatened to shoot a teacher? So I just like looked at him and I scooped my desk away, and the whole class went silent. Like nobody said anything. We were all just staring at him. Like we were all just in shock. Like, did he just threaten to shoot a teacher? After like 10 seconds of it being like completely silent, he reached in his backpack.
This is the reason why I treat people the way that I do. And this is how a toxic friend changed my life. Let's set the scene. 5th grade. I had a best friend, not gonna name her. We were like this. We were partners for everything. Always sat next to each other. If the teacher said team up, she'd be like, I wanna be with Joe today. So we would team up. But if we were ever on a team and we were losing, she would blame me. If I got a question wrong, she would call me dumb. If I shared my snacks with her, she wouldn't share any of hers back with me. You guys know those Cosmo brownies with the sprinkles? I would literally force my mom to buy those just for her. And when I'd ask for a chip, she'd be like, never willing to share. We would get into fights a lot. And in turn, I started being mean. But up until that point, I was a pretty wild child. Pretty crazy. Hyper. This girl would make me feel stupid for getting questions wrong, for not being fast enough in PE, but then the next day would want to be my best friend. I felt like a failure a lot. If I won anything, I'd have to give it to her. And I was mean too. I didn't like the person I was around her. Until eventually in art class, I legitimately had an epiphany. She was copying my artwork. I was a pretty good artist. She knew that, so she was copying me.
Story time. So this was 2 years ago, and I was at school, and it was a normal day until the principal went on the speaker and said, we're in lockdown, go in your closets. So we went ahead and went in the closets. We were all confused. Some people were scared. Everyone was like kind of asking the teacher what was going on and stuff. Now during this time, I wasn't asking anything or saying anything because I knew during a lockdown you don't want to say anything. So if there is someone in the school, they won't find where you are. But I was still listening to them because I was curious like everyone else. So while everyone was asking the questions, one girl stood up and said, if you're not going to say what's going on, I'm going to get out of the closet. The teacher yelled at her and told her no. And the teacher yelled loud, so whoever was in the school obviously heard. So the door opened and everyone became silent.
This is why you should never friend people you don't know on Roblox. I met this guy on Roblox and his name was Jimmy X Bear. He asked if we could be friends on Roblox and I said sure. I wasn't sus of him until a week later when he'd asked me to join his game. And I said sure. So I joined his game. He started then telling me that I was gonna get hacked and that I should stay off Roblox. I was completely confused. I didn't know what to say, so I just left the game. After a week or so, I went back on because of how scared I was, and I was logged out of my account. And now I didn't know what to do. So I went to go log into my account. After 20 or so tries, I finally got back in. I looked to go in my Roblox chats and saw Jimmy X Bear. You won't believe what he said next.
My mom faked her death so she didn't have to take care of me and my siblings. Yes, this girl really faked her death. So at the time, I was 5 and my little brother was 3. It started off with my mom saying that she didn't feel well and she couldn't pick me up from school, so the bus would have to take me home. Well, a few months after, she started getting picked up from our house by this black car. She said that car was picking her up because of her so-called doctor's appointments. And she wasn't able to drive herself because she was too sick. Well, one day, when this car came to pick her up, she never came home. Me and my little brother were sitting around for a couple days waiting for her to come home, but she never came home. And we were young, so we didn't do anything. Eventually, my aunt came over to our house and told my little brother and I that our mom had passed away and that she was cremated and they kept the ashes. So our aunt started taking care of us. Until one day I saw my aunt getting picked up by that same black car. That's when I started to get suspicious of everything and I decided to check these ashes. When I checked, it was flour. Like for part 2. This is part 2 of the time my mom faked her death so she didn't have to take care of me and my siblings. Like I said, my aunt told me that my mom had died and they cremated her and they let her keep the ashes and that she was going to start taking care of us. Me not knowing how long the cremating process actually took at the time since I was so young, I believed her. Until one day I saw my aunt getting picked up by the same black car that my mom used to get picked up by before she died. That's when I decided to check these supposed ashes and it was actually flour. So one day when my aunt got picked up by this black car, I decided to follow her. I didn't have a car, I was 5 years old, so I had to follow them by walking and hiding behind bushes. I was able to follow them up the street, and once they turned the corner, and there I saw my mom standing on the side of the street. That's when I see the car stop and I see my aunt get out and approach my mother. She tells my mom to give her money for covering for her and taking care of me and my little brother. Mom says she faked her death because my dad wasn't in our lives and she didn't want to take care of us anymore. I'm older now and I cut her off completely and I have full custody of my little brother.
Me and my friend were hanging out and eating Panda Express in the back of a Walmart parking lot after dark. We were just chilling in the car and we saw this man outside a semi-truck pacing back and forth. He was creepy and she locked her doors, but we just thought he was some weird guy doing nothing. He kept looking around and looking at our car and we made eye contact a few times by accident. We were gonna leave sooner but wanted to see what he was doing. I was looking at him and he reached in his back pocket and pulled out a gun and I yelled to my friend, "Drive away now, he has a gun." We dipped so fast and almost hit another car in the parking lot and I called the cops as she drove away. It was really scary.
You guys, this is why you should always check your food before you eat it. Doesn't matter if it's wrapped, doesn't matter if it's prepackaged, check it. Okay, so I think this happened about a year ago. Me and my sister were visiting a friend's house and we were just waiting to go somewhere. I think we had just eaten and I was really in the mood for some dessert. So my friend had a box of chocolates laying out, kind of as a centerpiece decoration. And I was like, what's that? She was like, oh, those are some old chocolates. If you want, you can have some. And I was like, oh, really? I was like, yeah, I ain't gonna say no to some chocolate. Yeah, we don't really eat chocolate, go ahead. Grabbed 3. Gave one of them to my sister, ate one. They were really good. They were like Godiva chocolate. They were delicious. And my sister thought so too. All is normal in the world. For some reason, when I was unwrapping the second one, I don't remember if I had already taken a bite, and I think I did. It was maggots. I never told her.
So here is a story time about how I found what was hidden in my grandmother's attic. So me and my cousins were all having a sleepover at my grandmother's house. And so my grandmother had this chest that was locked up inside her attic and we all knew about it. We knew where the key was but she wouldn't let us go inside the attic. So this one night when my grandmother was sleeping we all had this plan to get the key and go inside the attic and find out what was in that chest. So when our grandmother was sleeping in her bed we snuck in her room and got the key that was in her closet. And since my cousins didn't want to go inside the attic because they were all scared, they forced me to go first and open the chest. So when I went in the attic and saw the chest, I unlocked it and I opened it and I had saw a skeleton in the chest.
Here's a story time from about, I think, 1st grade. So my school playground had a playground and then it had a big field around it. And it was all gated off and it had trees all surrounding it with neighborhoods behind. Anyways, I had a best friend named, let's call her Maddie. And then I had another really good friend, and she was 1 grade higher than me, and she had 2 twin best friends. So anyways, they supposedly saw Chucky in the woods and they would not stop talking about it. And like, I was in first grade, like of course I was gonna get scared. Like, what else would a first grader do? So I got really scared and went to go tell my best friend Maddie. And she got really freaked out too and told on me. I got sent to the dean because I was scared. My mom nearly threw me out of the car. Like, I don't know.
So I am going to be talking about how me and my friends almost got kidnapped. So me and my homies were walking home from school and talking about how mean our history teacher was until we saw this van driving slowly towards us and we were all confused, so we started walking a bit faster, but the van had caught up to us. And there was this creepy dude inside the van and he kept asking us these weird questions and we felt really uncomfortable. So after a while of us talking to the man in the van, I ended up running away as fast as I could, and soon my homies started running with me and the van was chasing us and we were out of breath and scared for our lives. But luckily we saw my neighbor and we ran inside the neighbor's house. So my neighbor was really confused, but when we told him what was happening he was very understanding and made sure we got home safe.